Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now show, the voice of the DSO industry. Kim Larson and Bill Newman talk to industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. Visit groupdentistrynow.com for more DSO analysis, news, and events. Looking for a job or have a job to fill? Visit joindso.com. We hope you enjoy today's show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Group Dentistry Now show. I'm Bill Newman, and as always, we appreciate you watching us. We have two guests on it. Actually, the topic or the theme today is going to be really interesting. We're going to talk about data integrations, focus on technology, and then, how this affects DSOs. So I know data integration is something that I've been hearing a lot about at the different DSO meetings. Oh gosh, I think for the past year, maybe a year and a half. And I think now there's some solutions on the market, maybe where there weren't in the past. And so there's a lot of excitement around this topic. And I'm sure there's also a lot of confusion. So I'd love to bring these two guests into the show and have a nice conversation about this. And hopefully we can maybe shed some light on some of the challenges and some solutions that are out there. So we have Eric Giesecke with us. He is the CEO of Planet DDS. Eric, I think you've been on our podcast probably 3 or 4 times, so it's great to have you back.
Great to be here, Bill. Thanks for having me.
And we have Rod Ganjifard, who is the VP of Technology for Onsite Dental. And both Rod and Eric were on about a year ago. It was last August 2023. We had a Navigating Data Integrity DSO Study Club webinar. So Rod is also known to the Group Dentistry Now show and audience. So Rod, I appreciate you coming back again.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Always great time with you all.
Yeah, this is great. So a little bit about, maybe start with you, Eric, for like the 2 people in the audience that don't know who you are or who Planet DDS is. Can you just kind of fill in some of the blanks there?
Sure. So we are a dental software practice management, imaging, patient marketing, and actually orthodontic software provider, mostly for groups and DSOs and OSOs. We're at about 13,000 practices across the U.S. We work with over half of the top 25 DSOs, but kind of when we think about a platform or data integration, it's super keen to how we think about solving problems with folks like Rod, and where we think the industry's going. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks, Eric. And Rod, you're the Vice President of Technology for Onsite Dental. Can you talk a little bit about your role there? And then also, Onsite has a pretty unique model, so maybe discuss that if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm a VP Technology, kind of just sits on the infrastructure. It's reached out to the, BI data integration team, also are kind of like web development or app development for a patient engagement platform, both which need to tie really back into the practice management system. So Denticon is where all our data lives, and that's where we kind of live, from an IT point from where I'm at. Our model, we're not a traditional DSO. We are mobile employer-based dentistry. So what does that mean is we pick Fortune 100 companies and above. We like Intel's, Meta, Boeing, and we provide dental service for their employees on site. So we have a big semi-trailer vehicle, about 3 or 4 dental operatories in it, a full dental team, so dentist, hygienist, assistant, front desk manager, that actually go to like these locations, do dental work for 3 or 4 days, pick up and go to another spot. Some are more static, some stay there long-term, some are fixed, and some move around. It's a good model because not many competitors out there in the industry, and it's definitely a service that provides a good healthcare benefit to the employers in these companies, right? So the employers and the employees feel like they're getting a benefit from their company, which keeps them there longer. And of course, obviously the health, everything around the health behind it. So that's our model is just a little different, and I think we're going to be growing heavily in the future. Pre-COVID, we were on a drive up. COVID kind of changed the landscape a little bit because of work from home, and we pivoted. So we're now back to more manufacturing clients, and we're just growing. So it's a green sky or blue sky ahead of us.
Thanks, Rod. Yeah, the model is really interesting. We've been covering what Onsite's been doing on group dentistry now for quite a long time. So yeah, you've got some huge names as customers as far as companies go. So kudos to you, and kind of having a really unique model that makes a lot of sense. So I'll start with you, Rod. As you get into the Q&A portion of this podcast, how has the DSO market driven this need for integrated data? And I kind of mentioned it earlier as I introduced the subject. I mean, have you noticed that too in the past couple of years, that there's been a lot of conversation around integrating data? But let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the market to drive that conversation and the need for it.
Yeah, I look at it from a customer side. So the customer expectations are, we look at our data and we need access to it. We need it, from the most granular level because we have a business set of questions we need to answer. That whether that's for KPIs or, industry benchmarking, we're just trying to get an answer to a question. And the need for the integration of the data only makes that life cycle easier, right? More correct. Obviously we'll look at like live data, right? So the kind of key drivers, to integrate the data are making sure that we have access to everything, right? From any disparate source. It could be one point of database to, customer social media to SEO stuff, so having access to everything is kind of the main driver. And that's just the expectation now from a DSO standpoint is, I need to have access to everything. Otherwise I don't know what my ROI is. I don't know if this thing is working or what I'm doing is working or if I'm making my patients healthier. Right.
Eric, do you have any more insight on that? Like, how do you think we've arrived at this point in the market where there seems to be such a need?
Yeah, I think Rod's 100% right. There's a critical need for insights related to multiple data sources. So example being, Rod, I know you guys look at all this type of stuff, but whether it be marketing data in terms of what you're spending to attract new patients, or your clients are attracting new patients, to the PMS data that shows production per hour, to financial data that you might need as a DSO to be able to show what you're paying providers relative to production. All that stuff is critical, and you need to get the data in a reliable, manageable source. The second thing that I think is happening now is, and particularly as the industry moves more DSO and more cloud, and I know, Rod, you guys have done this because we've worked on some really cool stuff with you guys too, given your use case and the technology forward requirements of your clients. DSOs want to take advantage of innovation outside of the system of record or practice management software, which means APIs, which means tying in either through data connectivity to be able to either use or build applications around patient experience, around marketing, around even analytics, around some of the RCM stuff that's happening. So in order to do all of that, in order to be able to use not only, in our case at Denticon, but to be able to use a patient engagement platform that's not native to Denticon, or to be able to look at some of the insights that Rob was talking about around being able to look at KPIs, all that stuff is super critical in the industry and kind of where things are going. I think that data integration piece really has two kind of focus. One is like on the pure data analytics side, but also on the usability and the innovation that's happening through software applications as they tie together.
So Rod, let's talk from a technology challenge perspective. What are you seeing, right now when you're using fragmented or using multiple systems? What are the challenges at Onsite?
Oh man, there's so many, right? You got inconsistent data across, lack of real-time syncing data, right? Complex workflows. People have to do complex things to kind of get a simple answer. And then the other stuff, higher IT costs, like it just costs us more money to run those multiple systems. And then they have to have multiple redundant systems back on that and make sure everything's good. User experience, and then just, kind of training. So it's just a lot of stuff that are unnecessary when you have one single data source. Now, I know it's easy to say, oh, just give me one PMS system across my whole technology. But especially when you got these DSOs that do a lot of acquisitions, some DSOs convert over, right, to their practice management. Some just leave them in place. And then they say, you know what, we'll figure it out on the reporting side. And that really depends on where you want to spend your money, right? Whether it be, having a high power, like analytics team, right? One of these like crazy MIT mathematicians that can like parse all the data, bring it in. Or, you go the other way where we're going to bring everyone into one single pane, and we're going to use our, generic off the board metrics, and rinse and repeat.
So, Eric, what do you see as far as maybe some of the clients that Planet DDS works with and their challenges with fragmented data?
I think it is to some degree that if you're on multiple systems, multiple PMS systems, rationalizing and normalizing data is a challenge. One PMS system's definition of adjusted net production is going to be different than another. So when you're on multiple systems, which some people choose to do, it is manageable, but it is hard and it is expensive at certain times because you do, like to Rod's point, you need to have a data team. You be able to manage the changes that happen to what's called the schema or the table data structure of the individual PMS per solutions. If you're on one single solution, and granted that's what we do, it eliminates the need for doing that. So I think that's one cost that I think standardization happens. But on the flip side, I think there's also a challenge happening when we start to think about definitional stuff across platforms. So not just PMS, not PMS to PMS to PMS. It's PMS to RCM and PMS to scheduling or to forms or to all the things that are happening. When you have multiple practice management systems and then multiple other type of kind of systems and software used around the practice management system, that the data becomes even more complex because you not only do you have to deal with the fact that definitions are different within the core system, you also have to deal with the fact that those systems speak differently to other software applications like patient relationship management and patient engagement stuff. So I think just obviously standardization is what we preach. I think it makes a ton of sense if you're willing to do it. It's not easy, but once you get on a single platform, the ability to scale and standardize increases immensely. And the ability to pull data from a single source that has a single source of truth is great. But it also allows you to plug in other type of applications through APIs and other things that are a lot more difficult to manage than if you're using multiple PMS. So I think it's just a challenge. It's a challenge of a changing software landscape into where you've got a bunch of point solutions to a platform or an operating system, as we like to call, to be able to then kind of use the things you want to use in order to improve the patient experience.
So, Eric, this leads into the next question about a solution that Planet DDS has called DentalOS. So can you talk a little bit about what that is? And it's really one of the reasons we're here today to talk.
So when we, maybe a little bit of going back kind of the evolution of Planet DDS and where our head has kind of become or come to as part of this. So we obviously provide cloud-based enterprise level practice management software. And so we had a choice to make as the industry evolved and switched from kind of on-prem point solutions to cloud-based PMS. Did we want to do everything and be everything to all people within our practice management software? Or did we want to build an operating system akin to like Apple's OS that allows the clients or users to be able to pick the best-in-class innovation that happens outside the system? So we think there are things that are best done within the practice management software. A good example is two-way texting. It's so much easier to do that from the PMS than that go into a separate application and text the patient. But there are also a lot of other things that are done with less frequency where the workflow is not inefficient, such that you want to be able to experiment with and try some of those folks. So good example is the AI world, right? Overjet Pearl, NVIDIA, other folks are doing a lot of innovative things on AI related to images and claim submission. Like we, as the practice management software, we don't want to do that. We don't want to dictate necessarily who you choose to use in order to basically do what you want and take advantage of the fact that they're raising a ton of money and putting a ton of money into innovation. We want to be the operating system that allows you to be able to functionally take benefit from that innovation that happens outside through API. So like that's where we had a very important decision to make. Do we want to be all things to all people, or do we want to be a platform that allows our customers and users to take advantage of innovation that we can't necessarily do all of, given the fact that, the industry is moving to a enterprise level kind of DSO world, and we think our customers really want that. We made the decision to become an operating system.
Yeah, and I have to say thank you, Eric. That's something we've been wishing for a long time, and I really appreciate it. From a customer side, I'm the maturity that you guys have shown over the last few years is just immense, because someone like me sees that you care about us, right? And you're not saying this is my box, you got to fit into it. You're allowing us to grow in any way we want. So I can't thank you enough, man. Thanks.
No, thanks. You've been a great partner and a super innovative partner. What Rod's not telling you is they built some of the coolest patient-facing stuff that probably is super key to their business model. But having a customer like Facebook or Meta, I guess, Google forces you to be pretty innovative with how you present the patient experience. And it's been fun working with you guys to do so much stuff.
Pleasure's on this side of the table, buddy. Right?
So can you explain to me again, and some people in the audience, the difference between integrated data versus this single platform that's driven by APIs?
Sure, Rod. You want to take it or you want me to take it?
Go ahead. Yeah. No, APIs are your guys' thing.
So I think the way to think about it is integrated. So you've got data source, right? So like within a practice management software, which is what we call the mission critical system of record, the system of point of truth for a dental DSO. That data exists either kind of in a single database within a single PMS. And to Rod's original point, you have multiple PMS and that data isn't integrated. So that the lack of integration exists kind of in that use case where you've got, a point solution here, and the data doesn't talk to each other. So that's one element of non-integrated. Within the platform kind of OS perspective, we've got the data set that you use, but we use things called APIs, which basically allow partners of ours to be able to call or grab data and be able to push data back into the platform. And the idea being is the API is a secure layer that then allows someone like Azentis, for example, who does RCM, or other folks to be able to grab data from our platform, be able to do things, use that data, present that data, build workflows outside the system, and then when necessary, through an API, post that data back to our data set. So think about the API as kind of like almost an integrated piece, a connectivity piece that allows us to efficiently and securely pass data back and forth. That then, but from a user experience, allows it to be next to seamless. So you don't have to worry about connecting, translating, doing all of those things. The API layer does that for you. Rod is technical, so you might be able to do a better job explaining APIs than that in layman's terms. But it is more just like a connectivity piece between data sets.
Yeah. You got a good team over there that knows the answer to that question. So no, I'm just a user, right? But yeah, to kind of reiterate what I was talking about, a lot of the things that we see kind of, like with issues, just, not having unified patient records, right? Just not being able to kind of view it all in one pane, right? So I could definitely see, the inefficiencies that are out there, when you kind of don't have a DentalOS, right? Or kind of an API key set.
Yes. So, as far as like functionality and the efficiencies, what would be expected if we're, using non-integrated data right now? We've got, information all over the place. What are some expectations? What kind of efficiencies do you think a group practice might experience from that?
Yeah, so I kind of break it down in like, a couple buckets. One is like the cost saving side, right? Having those efficiencies, definitely reduce operational costs, cross thing. You gain it in other places. So you're able to kind of be more productive, right? Then you lose, the next bucket is kind of like, my technology stack kind of scale and I kind of grow it, right? If I'm kind of pegged to something that's not, easily efficient, I can't grow, right? I can't make my product better. I can't make it faster. I can't make it cheaper, right? And then, just simple stuff, like that, we look at, like, we try to find ways to kind of like optimize, daily tasks. And when you have a nice integrated OS or something like this, you kind of jump on that stuff. And this all goes like RCM stuff, right? Like there are a lot of repetitive tasks that kind of go over and over and over again. That if you had something connected, then you save all that time, right? I think I can answer the question.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, do you see, because you hear this a lot too, there's the data, there's so much information out there and you have access to it somewhere. But then there's having the data and then actually acting on the information that you get from that data. Do you feel like when it's integrated, you have access to it much easier, that there's more of an opportunity to actually use that data to your benefit, right? To actually act on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's common sense. Absolutely.
So what about from a patient perspective? And maybe Eric, if you want to talk about this, we talked about it from the DSO group practice side. But if you have an integrated operating system, does that benefit the patients?
Yeah, I think it does, because I think it can standardize and improve the patient experience in ways. Like, I was thinking, Rod, as you were saying that, like an interesting use case that might help articulate some of the benefit of an integrated system. So there are a couple of companies we've talked to who are trying to build a predictive engine around patient scheduling. So this kind of ties to kind of the patient experience, but probably more towards chair utilization and like limiting no-shows. So there's an opportunity, if you have a standardized data set, like a Denticon, you can grab through an API all of the data you need, and it can be historical or behavior of the patient itself. It can be based on credit scores. It can be based on lots of different things, and these models are all evolving to be able to provide a predictive score to see whether that patient will show up. So everyone's been double booked probably on an airline. Airlines do that in a very sophisticated way because they look at all of the data related to the passengers on the plane, and they try to determine who's not going to show up so they can sell extra seats. Dentistry is very much a utilization game. If you have a standardized platform and an OS that gives you a data set, you can run models on that and be able to kind of predict when people are going to come in, and then potentially, and we're not doing this today, but an opportunity to schedule in an efficient way to make sure that chair utilization is high. So that's not really a patient experience thing, but I think it gives you one example of kind of some of the innovation that's happening. Now, if you're not using a single data set to run those models, and you have to pull from lots of different PMS, for example, or lots of different data, it's very difficult for a model to run on a disparate data set because the definitions are so different. I mean, even as simple as we might call something in Denticon first underscore name, another practice management system might call it first capital name. These models are run based on identifying data trends within individual tables, and they're not smart enough to realize the difference between first underscore and first name. I mean, they're evolving, and I think, getting smarter all the time, but having a standardized data set really drives a lot of that innovation in ways that are super unique. Now, I also think on the patient experience side, like there's a lot of cool stuff happening to make the patient experience better. I think Onsite is forefront when it comes to thinking about these things, again, given some of their customers. But in terms of making it super slick and easy for people to reappoint, making it easy for people to do some pre-visit forms and medical history stuff so that you're not still in the world of which, unfortunately, we kind of are, where you go to an office and you fill out a paper form, you give an insurance card, you sit down there and you wait for them to key it in, you go see the data. Like, all that stuff can be done in advance and scanned, input, all of that stuff if you're on a single platform with a single data set. So there's a lot of innovation I think that can happen from a patient experience and also from a DSO perspective with an OSA or with an operating system.
That's great. Yeah, nobody likes to fill out those forms. You feel like every time you go into the office, they're asking you to fill out the same form that you filled out 6 months ago. So it does get frustrating. So that alone. So Rod, this one's for you. What steps have you taken at Onsite really to integrate your software and data, and maybe talk a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one that's really close to my heart and kind of in the last year has been our marketing kind of drive, right? Being able to put seats, butts in seats, right? And tracking that, right? We can develop this beautiful SEO campaign, commercials, social media ads. But the problem you run into is the second that you present, they go to the site, they book an appointment, you lose a lot of that like information, right? So we've integrated from the very beginning of that journey, right? From the start, whether it be a Google search or a social media kind of interaction, and follow that all the way through the practice management system to, point of schedule, right? Then to point of completion, and then after time of like a life cycle of a value of a patient, right? And then taking those things, because all that's in one view now, right? One kind of workflow, not disparate. We're able to make better marketing decisions and be more efficient with that dollar, right? And then the other side is just, our patient engagement platform that Eric talked about before uses a lot of pieces from Denticon, uses a lot of pieces from the outside world to kind of present to our patients a great experience, right? And that, there's a communication part of it, right? We're able to message doctors. There's a place to kind of, pay bills and stuff like that. Obviously book appointments, and with the new DentalOS that's kind of coming out, there's a roadmap for growth in that to make it easier. And you guys brought up a great point of patient consents. We want to be able to kind of have an easy button for our teams to hit, push out some consents to the patients. They could do it on their phone. They could take pictures of their ID, of their insurance card, and that integrates, right? Automatically goes in, right? So, that's the kind of things we, kind of experienced, we kind of developed into, right?
So Eric, and Rod talked about this a little bit. So really, since you've launched DentalOS, what's the feedback been? Rod seems pretty stoked about it. So from your technology partners and then also from some other DSOs, what's the feedback been?
Feedback's been really positive. The partners like it because access to more data gives them the ability to provide more use cases and candidly sell more of their software. So the open architecture and the API has been received massively positively by partners, but also by, Rod, thank you very much for the kind words. I think your words are kind of indicative of how a lot of these large groups we work with, how they think. There's so much happening in dentistry right now from an innovation perspective, and the AI stuff is just that you hear about from the imaging side is probably the most forefront and the most publicized. There's a lot of other cool stuff happening. And so as an organization, you can choose to either kind of close off the wall like Apple does, or did at one point, I guess it doesn't do anymore, and try to do it all yourself and control that ecosystem, or you can create an open operating system that allows folks to grab the data and innovate. And I think there's just, there's so much wood to chop, but so much possible within dentistry that our clients and customers are really kind of supportive and happy about the fact that we've taken this position to allow them or the partners they want to work with to be able to grab the data they need in order to innovate. So it's been really positive. It's been received really, really well. And we work with our we just launched a new API. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it's in market now, and a lot of partners are looking at it. Hopefully, Rod, you've had a chance to take a look at it. I'm sure you probably have. Okay, cool. Just making sure. But there's a lot of new stuff we're exposing, a lot of new, more modern technology. And Rod, you've seen it. Like we're supercharging. We're investing incredibly in this as part of kind of our core roadmap thesis. And the idea is we want to just be super modern, super available, and super good partner to all of our DSOs, OSOs, and partners.
Yeah, we love it. We love the roadmap. It's only going to make me look cooler and like a big hero to my company. So
impossible.
So as we start to wrap up the podcast, where do you envision these integrations? Where does it go from here? Maybe Eric and then Rod, you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I talked one use case around scheduling. I think, and this is the cool thing that's happening now, and I think maybe the publicity that some of the big raises and some of the AI companies are drawing more attention to dental. There's lots of people that are coming up with really creative use cases that honestly, I don't know if they solve problems. I know they're keen to address problems I know exist. I don't know if they'll actually solve the problems. But when it comes to things like Rod mentioned, like repetitive tasks related to RCM, data integrity, eligibility standardization, such that you don't ever really have to call and verify an insurance plan for a new patient. You can just basically use the data structure and some of the other things in order to get insurance plans created and be able to effectively and confidently treatment plan. There's a lot of stuff obviously happening on the imaging side with AI in terms of treatment plan acceptance. A lot of things around patient presentation that I think is really cool associated with that. So there's innovation. We get hit up all the time by these cool companies, usually small, that have an idea. And so they come and they meet with us and they walk through it. And it's so much fun to sit down and talk to them. And then they listen to us tell them, oh yeah, we have an API that allows you to grab that data, and they're super thrilled. So I think there's just so much innovation around the OS that I think will continue to persist across all elements of the patient journey. It's hard to pinpoint one. I think The one that probably from recency bias is around schedule utilization, but there's just a ton of stuff out there that people are trying to work on, and it's an exciting time to be in dentistry.
Rod, how about you? Or maybe there's something you have on a wish list?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our stuff, is just driven around the patient experience, and trying to get them more engaged into one place, right, where they can kind of get all their information, right? It's we're way in the mid 2020s. Technology is a tool everyone's used to, right, and being able to kind of view everything, right, from their schedule to their treatment plan. I love to preach a lot about patient education, being able to kind of explain what the procedures are. You go to the dentist and they say, all these like clinical technical terms, you have no idea what they mean. But then, you get presented the video on YouTube. Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's a filling, right? I get it, right? So, trying to give them one source of a location where they can kind of get all the information, prescriptions. To me, that drives them to stick with our DSO or our company, because there's no one else out there doing that, right? You got the mom and pop dentists that don't spend time in the technology. And then, I think they'll be left behind. But that's not, Denticon or Planet DDS's fault. That's the small mom and pop shops. Eric and his team are creating an apparatus where it can make the technology. There's a way for you to get to the technology frictionless, right? So, I think there's the sky's the limit, right? Cross industry integration, right? It can connect to a medical kind of PMS, right? That all that information just benefits the healthcare, from life cycle from the beginning to the end.
Great. This has been a great conversation. I'll let you both have some final thoughts before we end the podcast, and then if you both wouldn't mind, just how can people connect with you or find out more about your organizations? Rod, why don't we start with you? Final thoughts on data integration, and then also how do they connect with you if they'd like and find out more about Onsite Dental?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So appreciate, the path that Planet DDS is going on. Without them, we wouldn't be here, right? I wouldn't be here. So I love the trajectory. And that's to say that 5 years from now, Eric pivots again to the right move, right, for what its customers want. So, we're talking about this now like it's the future onset technology, but this will become old hat and we'll be on to the next thing. And I feel confident Eric will get us there, right? Or the Planet DDS will get us there. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, R. Ganjifard, at onsitedental.com is my email. Feel free to reach out anytime with questions. I love helping other Planet DDS, members, giving them some advice, trying to drive them to profitability or, better experience, and then I get it from everyone else too. I love reaching out, making new friends out there. So thanks.
Thanks, Rod. Eric.
No, I think, Rod said it super well. I think we're kind of in this new phase of innovation in dental where it requires you to be an operating system or a platform to take advantage of. And folks like Rod, who've been great partner in terms of helping us develop some of the innovation, think through how we be a good partner to DSOs and expose the data through APIs that allows, in the case of Onsite, to be able to build the really unique software applications they need for their patient experience, but in other people and other partners. And so, that OS is really critical to what we think, how we think the industry is going to evolve and what the industry wants. And we're committed to doing it. It's a fun time to be in dental. There's a ton of stuff going on, and we're excited to be part of it. One other thing I'll plug for our user conference for those listening. Rod, did you go to Orbit last year?
Oh yeah, love it. It's the best time.
It's the best. It is a good company. Right? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's right. We had a costume. We had a space theme party last year, but I think you were there. I think we saw you there. It's this year it's in San Antonio, and I believe February or March it's going to be Space Cowboys.
March 6th.
Love it.
March 6th. Yeah,
March 6th through the 8th.
Plug for that. Come out, bring your teams. Like there'll be a leadership track for executives, which will be a little shorter and more focused on strategy. Chance to interact with folks. The teams will have some hands-on training, which will be great. We're going to do a little bit more of that kind of real-time training. Well, of course, we'll go through the roadmap. This time I probably won't dress up as Elizabeth Holmes because that didn't go over so well last time. But it's a good time. And then there's a great time in San Antonio on the Riverwalk. Everyone likes San Antonio. So hopefully everyone can join there. And you can find me at Giesecke at planetdds.com and obviously at planetdds.com for the website. Always a pleasure to be here, Rod. Good to see you, man. And thanks for having us.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll drop your LinkedIn handles in the show notes, and also, of course, your websites and email addresses if people want to get in touch with you. And yeah, you were mentioning Orbit 2025. I can drop a link to that as well. That's March 6th through 8th in San Antonio, and looks like the agenda's up here on your website, and you can find out all about it. So yeah, thanks guys. Great conversation. Really appreciate it, and appreciate everybody who's watched or listened to this podcast today. Until next time, this is the Group Dentistry Now Show.
The Group Dentistry Now show has listeners across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. If you like our show, subscribe today and please tell your colleagues about us.